Hey, this is Terry Bain with another fun episode of Business Growth Time. Super excited to have our guest in from Mexico. Very cool. Chris Martinez. We're going to talk a lot about him and his beach background in just a minute. But before we get to that, allow me to introduce the lovely, the talented, tad bit lazy today, really not carrying her weight, and I'm excited about that. Janet E. Johnson. It's going to be a fun show, kids. How you doing, Janet E. Johnson?
Good. Where's my E-word?
Where's your hashtag is what I want to know. Where is everything going thrown
Last name too, by the way. I caught that. Yeah, you mess around with those last names on the Zoom all the time. You know, you missed the best E-word. I don't know how you didn't think of this. Where am I going?
You're going to Egypt. I want
Thank
to have
you.
a little build-up, right? 'Cause I can see you doing this thing, right? The little dance. Isn't this like an Egyptian thing? Remember Walk Like an Egyptian? You're a
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's funny.
No.
So yeah, you missed the E-word. No, I knew you had it. You had it.
You're going to Egypt like soon. Although by the time anyone hears this, you'll be back from Egypt.
I will. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, hopefully. What happens then? Yeah.
The anticipation. I guess they'll find out at the next show.
I'm super excited. We're actually going to do a show about Janet's Egyptian trip and frivolousness. I have this light behind my head is making my head even shinier than normal. So I figure that out at some point. So allow me to introduce our guest. Now, I did a little tease. Tijuana, right? Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
Just lost everything. Sorry about that. So he's in Mexico doing very, very cool stuff. Chris Martinez has actually only been there for a few months. He's an LA guy, moved to San Diego, runs an agency. He's been doing that for like the last 6 years or so. And in 2017, he invented this thing called Dude. And Dude is effectively all the cool marketing shit you need as a service. Whether you're building funnels, building websites, he's got a team for agency owners that's going to make that whole thing a lot easier for you. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about his path and how he got there and the cool services that Dude provides. So welcome, Chris Martinez.
All right. Thank you very, very much. Thanks so much for that intro.
My pleasure, man. My pleasure. So let's talk about the cool stuff first. You moved to Mexico. What?
Yeah. I know.
Isn't there a wall there or something? I don't even know how that works.
There is absolutely a border, contrary to what some people think. Yeah. So, I've been doing, I'm sure we'll get into this a bit more, but I've been doing business down here in Mexico. I started my agency in 2012 and then had a team in the Philippines. Long story short, that wasn't working. And I was living in San Diego. I came down here to Tijuana to try and build a team because it's so close, right? Literally you can see Tijuana, Mexico from San Diego.
Right.
So I came down here, found a bunch of developers, grew my agency. It was amazing. And then 2017, I launched Dude. And that's basically where now we're working with other digital agencies. And instead of them having to go to India or the Philippines or Central Europe or wherever, they can just use our team here down in Mexico. And so we offer unlimited web development and design for agencies. And it's been great. And so we've grown our team just in the past 9 months from 5 people, and we just hired number 20 yesterday. We'll probably be bringing on 21 next Monday, and then we'll be at 25 by the end of this year, and we're anticipating we'll be at like 100 by the end of next year.
Wow.
So just insane growth.
That's fast growth. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's just so much talent down here that's untapped talent. And then you get all the benefits because, people here on the border city of Tijuana, for those who don't know, Tijuana is like right here, right on the other side of San Diego. And so people here in TJ understand American culture in a way that you really can't find anywhere else on the planet. And so that really helps from an operations side and just staffing, like we got great people who really speak our language here, speak the American language. So it's been great.
That's really, really cool.
That's interesting.
You were tired of the working with Filipinos or Indians, maybe the language barrier or communication issue or the time difference.
Joanne, don't take offense to this because you'll be listening to this.
Right.
It's my podcast.
We love
and I'll just say, The Philippines was fantastic, and it helped me scale my agency up to around 50 clients. But we were just having the problems that everybody has, the time difference. For the first year, I was staying up till 1 o'clock in the morning every single night communicating with my Philippines team. So the time difference, there were some communication challenges, and then there was power outages and internet outages that happened every year because of the monsoons in the Philippines. And
Yes.
so that was really hurting our customer service at the time. And I still have Filipino employees. We've got 4 now, as opposed to when we had 9, but they're still fantastic people. It's just, there's just some things that, it was really hurting our customer service. So then I tried Pakistan for a little while. I tried India. Those areas had a lot of communication challenges. And I think it's just cultural. There's just so many cultural differences, and that creates a lot of inefficiencies and bottlenecks. And like for me, I'm obsessed with efficiency. And in the agency world, efficiency is key because time is money, so things have got to flow smoothly. Otherwise you're hurting your profitability. So India, Pakistan, that region wasn't really working for us. I tried Central Europe, customer service challenges there in Central Europe. They kind of have that, communist hangover that people, if you've ever traveled there before, you've experienced it. And then South America, I've tried there as well, which was great because of the time zone, but just hitting deadlines, they just could not hit deadlines ever. And then in the States, I hired some people in the States. Obviously the cost is going to be higher, but then I also had to deal with some ego challenges too. So unfortunately, sometimes in the development world in the States, you got these people who, they have egos, and that can be a challenge as well. So that's when I found Mexico, and it was just perfect. It's like you get all the benefits of outsourcing and none of the downsides. So it was fantastic for us.
What made you think to even check there, though? Because when you think about development hotbeds, Tijuana doesn't make the list.
Oh, it doesn't even register at all. Nobody knows. It's this hidden gem. So, kind of going back to my history, my grandfather is originally from Mexico, from a city called Encarnacion in central Mexico near Aguascalientes. And he crossed the border when he was a teenager. It was like 1910. So my grandfather was born in 1896 or something like that. So he crossed the border on his own. Back at that time, just to give you some history, a lot of American companies were recruiting people from Mexico to come up and work in their factories. And because there wasn't enough labor big enough labor force in that part of the country. So he just walked across the border at that time. And so, basically I've always had this desire, and it also came from my dad too, to see if I can do something in Mexico. And that's when I just let's just try, let's just go down there. And I had a friend who had a company down here in Tijuana, completely different industry in logistics. And I talked to some of his team members, and they were like, yeah, you can find people. But we really didn't have the roadmap on how to figure it out. So we had to figure out how to hire people, and that took a little while. Now we've obviously figured it out. But yeah, I mean, it was like, Wild West. Like we just came down here and we were just like, all right, well, we got to figure it out, and trial and error. And we got it.
Do you provide other agencies then with workers from Mexico too? Is that part of what you do or no?
That is exactly what we do, actually.
Okay.
So we have two revenue streams for Dude. So we have our pod system, where basically an agency will pay a flat rate, and they get access to a team of anywhere between 4 to 5 people. There's a team leader, which we call a pod leader, and that's like their one point of contact. So you get this team that just works on your stuff consistently. You share that team though with anywhere between 15 to 20 other agencies. So our response time is still really, really good. I mean, our average completion time is around 2.5 days for projects. And we have some stuff that, takes 15 minutes. We have some stuff that's 2 weeks. But on average, because we look at these numbers, it's right around 2.5 days. So that's our pod system, and where they share the team. And now we have another system that we call another program that we call our dedicated employee program. And so let's say an agency comes in and they're getting a lot more projects because of our team. And then they get even more projects than they anticipated. They said, hey, Chris, I got so many more projects that I can take on. I just need a faster response time. That's when we talk to them about the dedicated employee program, where we find them a developer or a designer down here in Tijuana, and then they are dedicated to that agency for 40 hours a week. So they're only working on that agency stuff, and the turnaround time is so much faster. Now they pay a little bit more for that, obviously, and they don't get 5 people for what they were paying in the pod, but the response time is a lot quicker. And most people actually keep a pod, and they have a dedicated or 2 dedicated employees, and that's really all that they need. So that's our 2 streams. And so it's like, one's like, like the pod system. And then we have basically our staffing agency model with the dedicated employee program. So there's really nothing that we can't handle for the development and design stuff.
So cool, man. So what prompted the thought? How did you sit around and go,
we talked about this. Yeah. Chris and I talked about this. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll give you kind of like my entrepreneurial history. So like I grew up, my childhood, like I didn't have a typical like tech background, right? So like when I was growing up, it was like the early 90s, and I kind of had a rough childhood. And so like I wanted to be a little gangbanger kid. And so I hung out with a really bad crowd. And
Janet in the 80s, man, she was a total.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So I was very fortunate though. And I just think it was luck, so like the kids that I hung out with, they all just kind of disappeared right around high school. And my best friend from middle school, I had soccer as an outlet. I've always been a soccer player. So my best friend from middle school, he didn't have an outlet like that. And he ended up getting really involved in the gang life, and he got shot and killed right after high school. So that always stuck with me, because I easily could have happened to me, because he was just as smart as I was academically. He just didn't have the family support, or he didn't have these outlets, right? So anyways, I got through high school, and I always got good grades. I went to college. College was an amazing experience for me, and exposed me to all these different ways of thinking. And, people grew up completely differently than I had. I feel like I came out of my shell as a person, and I had always had this entrepreneurial desire, right? So like in college, one of the things that I did to make money is I sat in on one of the entry-level courses, and I took notes. And then I basically created a note-taking service for that class. And I made like $1,500 in a quarter, which back then was like $1 million. I was so rich. So that was like, something that I did. And then got a job in sales, eventually did very well with that. And then my dad got really sick. In December of 2006, he got diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. Actually, at first they thought it was liver cancer. And then it was, they found out that it was pancreatic cancer, and he died about a month later, 3 days before my 27th birthday. So then I decided, I want to try and start my first business. And so I started a soccer magazine, a print soccer magazine in 2007. And it was the worst time in history to ever start a print magazine. So within 18 months, I had lost everything, to the point where I couldn't pull $20 out of the ATM. Now, at this point, I had never been interested in the internet, which is like crazy to say now. But back then I was like, computers is not for me. I started the print magazine. And so then I lost everything, and I had to pick myself back up. And those were some very, very difficult times for me, like the darkest times of my life. But I was able to get through it with the help. I'm a big proponent of counseling. So I ended up getting a therapist, and she basically saved my life, in my opinion. Anyways, on the professional side, I had to, get a job, but I'm still an entrepreneur. So, we're never short on ideas. So I was like, I have this idea, I need a website, I have no money. So I asked a friend of mine who owns some successful restaurants. I said, how did you get your website? He's like, I just did it on this thing called WordPress. I'm like, what the heck is WordPress? He's like, oh, you can figure it out. Best advice that he could have given me. And I was like, well, how much can I just pay you? He's like, no, you go figure it out. So basically in a weekend, I taught myself how to build my first website, and I have zero technical background whatsoever. But that started the whole thing. I built my first website in a weekend. It was hideous, but I did it. I was happy with myself, set up hosting, and did everything. And then I started to learn more about the marketing side. And I invested in a program that Russell Brunson, way back in 2000, and I think it was 2010 or 2009, had called .com Secrets.
Oh yeah.
He taught you. I was paying $500 a month, and I had a coach, and he was teaching me about internet marketing. And I had a blog, and I was like, it was soccer related, so I had a soccer blog. I started running traffic, And so then I got a job while I'm doing this blog on the side, paying for this program out of my own pocket. I started working for an internet marketing company that was selling pay-per-click advertising. I was doing sales. And through that, I discovered, hey, there are all these smaller companies that need websites. And I was on another webinar about like outsourcing. And so like I had an assistant in the Philippines. And so I knew the power of the Philippines, and basically that's how we started the agency. And zero money, I was still basically coming off my being unbelievably broke. I did go broke again, actually, when I started the agency. So bounced back from that. And then we just kept pushing forward, and then started going full time with my agency in 2013. I had actually been working now for a newspaper group in Los Angeles, and I was the online advertising manager for this newspaper group, and I absolutely hated it. So I've got my agency that I'm running moonlighting with, and then I've got this newspaper company that I hated every single minute of being there. And the newspaper had a down month on sales for advertising because nobody reads the frickin' newspaper anymore. And so they brought me into the office on the last day of the month. They said, we didn't hit our numbers. You're the last one who's hired, so we're going to have to let you go. No severance, nothing. And I was like, it was 45 minutes of terror. And I remember I'm sitting in the office just like sweating with the HR person who basically let me go. And then I was like, you know what? This is a sign. I've been wanting to leave this job, and I believe in my agency. So I'm going to go, balls to the wall. This is all I'm going to do. And so I started running that agency, and that's basically how we got started. And then, in 2017, so going back to the dude story, 2017, I was feeling a bit unfulfilled with my agency. We had over like 200 and something active clients. Everybody's on retainer. We're making money, but I wasn't feeling fulfilled. And there was just some, aspect of certain clients that I just didn't like dealing with. And so I went to my friend's beach house, and I'm not a meditator, but I did my version of meditating, which was just kind of hanging out and thinking. And I heard a podcast. I started listening to this podcast of Russ Perry, who started Design Pickle. And that's where I got the inspiration. I was like, I can totally.
By the way, Terry, Chris and I talked about this, and he spoke at Lead Pages event when I was there. So I knew exactly who he was talking about. So that's kind of
Russ is an awesome guy. Mm-hmm. So I listened to this podcast of Russ Perry, and I'm like, dude, I can totally do this with web development. And so then we ran the Facebook ads, and that's how Dude started. And Dude actually stands for something. So I was like, what can I call it? And this name just came to me. And so digital updates done by experts. And that's how I came up with it.
Nice.
Okay.
And so one more story about that. So Russ Perry gave me the inspiration. And then I connected with a gal named Hannah who works for Design Pickle, awesome gal, and we were both at the Digital Marketer Traffic and Conversion Conference last year. And so I wrote a book on outsourcing to Mexico called Hacking Mexico. And I said, hey, Hannah, if you ever want to give this to Russ, I'd love to help him get into Mexico. And I told her the story of how I got the inspiration for Dude from Russ. So after the event, she connects me with Russ, and we do a call, and they had been wanting to get into Mexico for years. And we did a call. And so I was able to give him some advice on how to get into Mexico. Now I think last time I talked to him, they had 16 designers out of Monterrey, Mexico. So it was cool to see that come full circle, and I was able to help him out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. It's a great, it's a really great story. It's funny because the last two interviews we did, this kind of fits that theme, doesn't it, Terry?
Yeah, absolutely. And which as well it should, right? As well.
Yeah. Yeah. We've been talking a lot about moving from the job world to the entrepreneurial world when it's right, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. For me, I was fortunate. Yeah. I was fortunate because, I didn't have a family. It's just me, at the time it was my dog and my dog. So I was able to be a bit more nimble. And I get asked this a lot of the times from newer agency owners. It's like, when do you make the move? Like, how do you know when you need to make the jump? And I feel, from a practical standpoint, obviously you got to have some money to be able to take care of yourself, whether that be dipping into your savings or, you have an additional income stream. One of our clients, he's a retired police officer, so he's got that pension that helps him. But the other thing is, just that desire. Like, are you going to look back on your life and have regret if you don't do this now? Because like with my experience with my dad, right? Like I got to see that regret firsthand of the things that you can't do when it's over. And so that stuck with me. And so I'm like, I don't care how much pain I have to go through. I just know that I have to do this because the pain of regret is going to far exceed any pain that I'll feel right now trying to build this business. So you just go for it.
It always does too, right? We talk about FOMO, fear of missing out, but it's nothing really compared to sitting there and not doing the things that you're called to do.
Right. Right.
So good for you, man. Good for you for stepping up and taking the chance and, really betting on you. I think that's the important lesson here.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. And I've had some great people, support me along the way, mentors, so like I by no means do I think that I've done it all on my own, but I also feel like when you put yourself out there and you're honest and you own up to your struggles as well, people respect that and they'll go out of their way to help you as well. There is a great entrepreneurial community that exists in the States. And so you can tap into that by just being authentic.
That's the key, right? And that's such an important piece. And it's interesting to me because you've got really two very different types of entrepreneurs and really two different types of people. You've got the people that are in the fake it till they make it camp, right? And there's still some of that going on, and that was like a 90s lesson for like everybody to learn. And then now it's so much the opposite. It's really people want to hear about the struggle. They want to hear about the strife. They want to hear about the shit that you had to go through to get to where you are.
Right.
Because it's relatable and we've all got it to some level and extent. So,
yeah, absolutely. One of my good friends, Matt Wolf and, or two of my good friends, Matt Wolf and Joe Fear, they're big in the internet marketing world, and they were doing a podcast with the guy who started Teachable, and I can't remember his name, but what they learned through the software Teachable is that, you don't have to be this billionaire expert to connect with people. And the reality is that people only want to connect. They want to connect with people that are just a couple of steps ahead of where they're at. Because those people, it's so much more real, right? Like they just, you feel like you know them a lot better because they're not light years ahead of where you are. It was just, 3 or 4 years ago that they were in my shoes. And I'm like, well, cool. Now I feel like I can reach their level. The goal seems way closer when when they're that, they're only a few steps ahead of where you are.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's data that backs that up.
and we don't even have to show you the data. We just have to say that there is data.
Yeah, there is data. Exactly. It's real news. It's not fake news.
That's good. That's good. Well, and we met actually, and it's interesting because Terry's the big LinkedIn guy, and I barely go on there. But Chris, we just built a connection through LinkedIn. He reached out. He thought it was odd I did Pinterest. I don't know. So then that brought on a conversation. So then we decided to chat, and then I just found his story intriguing. So that's why I invited him on the show. So yeah, kind of interesting. But how you connect with people also is just always an interesting story too, because usually LinkedIn connections don't go this far, like to the, you typically go, hey, make a connection with me, bye-bye, you never talk again. So,
right.
It's kind of an interesting story.
Well, I'm happy that you invited
me. Well, this is great. I think this is great. I would like to let's finish up with I want to talk a little more about your book and the difference, because I know a lot of people that they ask me all the time, because I've had people working for me in the Philippines for years, and I get asked, how does that work? How does that work? And people are so intrigued with it. But the Mexico thing for me too, Terry also, I think we were like, what? Haven't heard about that before. So I'd like to just finish up with just a few tips on that and how they can find your book and follow up with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So is your question how to get started in Mexico?
Yeah. And your book probably shows a lot of that too. But yeah. And just some differences. Maybe they've hired in other places and they want to, what are some similarities and differences too?
Yeah, absolutely. So I will start off by saying that Mexico is a very diverse country, just like in the States. The States is super diverse. The northern parts of Mexico are going to be a bit better if you want people who understand American culture a bit more. Obviously, I'm a huge proponent of Tijuana because they're so close. Everybody here has family that's in the States. They go back and forth all the time because they have a visa. So that's a huge thing. But I do answer all of those questions, at least for web development and design, in my book, which I'm happy to hook you up with a copy. So
Mexico is the name.
Hacking Mexico, yeah. So it's on Amazon, so you can go buy it if you want to. But yeah, I mean, the biggest differences, or I would say advantages to working with Tijuana in particular, is time change, obviously. So we're Pacific Standard Time, so it's 10 a.m. right now our time. And so like if you want to do a call, you can just jump on a call with your people and ask them a question. Some things are just easier to just solve like on a quick call, right?
Sure.
So we do that with our clients all the time, or Zoom or whatever. We have super reliable internet, very also reliable electricity. If you end up setting up a business down here, it can be a bit of a challenge to set up the company, but once you have it set up, rents are obviously much, much cheaper down here. So we're actually expanding our office because of our growth. And I looked at it's a warehouse. So we've got we're basically looking at a warehouse space that's super open and we can just kind of build it into whatever we want. So, but I was looking at a 4,500 square feet, it was like 5,000 square feet office in a downtown central location. And it's, $4,000 a month. It's like not that expensive. And this is like in downtown. So like, San Diego, that place would be 10 times as expensive.
Oh, I'm sure it would. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so there's that. And then labor savings. So like when you look at the labor rates between the Philippines, for example, and Mexico's, can be 2 or maybe 3 times as expensive, 2.5 times more expensive than the Philippines. But what I was experiencing is I was having to go back and forth with the Philippines and they were having to do things over and over again. So I'm basically paying them twice because they're having to redo stuff. So factor that in, then we're basically paying them the same. And then, our customer service, there's an opportunity cost when you got unhappy customers. It takes away from the time that you can focus on selling. They're not going to refer you as much. Obviously, you're going to have some client churn. So being down here in Mexico, like right away, there was a cost justification for being here. So those are like the biggest advantages to being here. And especially in the agency world, since labor and communication and being able to get stuff done and efficiency is so important to our business, it's an amazing place. So does that answer your question, Jen?
Yes, it does. Okay. And then it brought me to another question because we discussed this when we had our other call, but you haven't talked about it is, so for any agency owners that are listening, if they're a small agency and they're interested in the services, what do you offer? You mentioned website building, but are there other pieces what else is it? Because we've talked about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So most agencies, at least at some point in their career or lifespan, I should say, they have more work than they can handle. Right. And they lack the systems and they lack the team to be able to take on more work and scale. And so, we have some agencies, they sell a website or a funnel that's hooked up to an autoresponder, and then maybe they're running ads for their clients. Maybe they're doing more design work. So the agencies are lacking the staff and they're lacking a lot of the processes. And so that's what we help them out with. So automatically, we help them build out all their websites and funnels. We help them set up autoresponders. We do design work, landing pages. And when it comes to the design work, like banner ads, if they're doing that, or just graphics for the website, Facebook ad graphics. We install tracking pixels if they need us to do that. Anything that they would send over to a designer or a developer, we basically handle. The only thing that we don't do is like copywriting or Facebook running ads. We don't actually run the ads. We don't go into their Facebook ad manager or their Google AdWords account. But all the other components of an ad campaign we handle. We just don't write. We don't go into your ad manager or Google AdWords account.
Okay.
Sorry, you kind of cut out there for a second. What did you say?
Like for ClickFunnels lead pages.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. So we go into ClickFunnels lead pages, WordPress, Shopify, Thrive themes, like all these different builders we work on. And then the other component that we help them with, we have a thing called our Flex system. I came up with that just because I don't know how these things come to me. I'm a goofball. We basically help them through our Flex system to develop processes to help them be more efficient and use our team to the fullest extent, with the ultimate goal, helping our agencies to be able to step away from their agency. So a lot of agencies they have this dream of working from the beach, like my background right here, the only palm tree in the world that doesn't move.
Very still.
So, yeah, I know. I control the wind here. That's how powerful I am. And
sweet.
No, so they have this idea of working from a beach, right? And it's going to be super fun, and I get to be creative. And then they get 2-3 years into this agency, and they're like, "Holy crap, this is not what I thought it was going to be." And they become a slave to the agency, and they can't pull themselves out of it, and they can't explore the world. So that's the ultimate goal: is we want our agencies to have the systems in place so that they can pull themselves out of the agency and take time off if they want to, or focus on the aspects of the agency that they love. And so that's what we do with the Flex system. So we help them with the people as well as the processes.
Cool. Hey, I see it all the time. And I mean, Terry and I have had this discussion quite a bit too. Yeah, so this is a great offering. So where can people learn more about this? What's your website and any best place to find you and connect with you?
Yeah, so you can go to our website. It's dudeagency.io. I almost said it in Spanish because I'm so used to saying it in Spanish. Or you can get the book on Amazon, but I will hook you guys up. I'll give you a free digital for your listeners too, if they want a free digital
awesome.
copy. They can just email me directly at chris@dudeagency.io and just ask me for a copy of the book. I'm more than happy to give them a free digital PDF.
Cool. Awesome. Any other last questions, Terry? I know I took up all the questions at the end, but I'm always curious on this kind of stuff.
No, it's good. It's nice to have us both taking turns asking questions. That's always fun. I really thought this was cool. I like the idea. In fact, I'm going to go talk to the guys at my company and say we should really take a look at this. What's the pricing model look like? How does that work from a pod perspective? Can we talk about that?
Oh yeah. So, pods, we have programs that start at $500 a month, going up to $3,600 a month. Most people come in into our unlimited package. It's around, I think it's $17.97 a month.
Okay.
So yeah.
Very affordable. Right? Wow, that's really cool.
Our goal is for our agencies to be able to at least 10x their investment with us. So if you're giving me $17.97 a month, I want to help you generate at least another $18,000 a month in revenue.
Nice.
And then on the dedicated employee side, it goes anywhere from, I would say on the low end, $1,250 for a person that would be like a designer, up to, we can find you full stack developers, mobile app developers, and those people are in the $3,000 to maybe $4,000 a month, depending on the specialty. So like we have one of our agencies, they needed a full stack developer, Angular full stack developer. And so we were able to get them that person for around $3,300 a month. And they were actually going to hire somebody off Indeed for the States for like $150,000.
Right. So, because that's the math. That's amazing. Right. So we're looking at $40,000 a year versus $150,000 a year. Holy cow. And
no egos. No egos, and they're happy to work.
That's incredible, man. Well, this is very informative, very useful information. I'm sure the audience will enjoy learning about this. So
yes,
thanks for taking the time, Chris Martinez. Favorite social networking site, social media site, where should if people want to connect with you, where should they find you? I know you gave your email address.
Personally, okay, so we're actually running more ads on the Facebooks. So you can find us on Facebook as Dude Agency. I think facebook.com/Dude Agency. Me personally, if you want to send me a message on the Instagrams, just go to dudeagency.io. That's our Dude page.
Nice.
Yes, and I'll respond to the messages there.
Very, very cool. All right, Janet E. Johnson, where can the good people find us?
Yes. Well, all our past episodes are at businessgrowthtime.com/blog. And then also we have businessgrowthtime.xyz is where our group is, and we have a Facebook group around this. So definitely we'd love you to join us there. So those are the two best places to find us. And we've had a lot of past episodes about entrepreneurship. This is another one. So it was fantastic information, Chris. Appreciate your time.
Thank you guys so much. Have a great one.
Thank you. You too.